Why do you think it's important for women in leadership, the number one thing, why they need to have safe friendships?
With real connection and real friendships, you're really honest. Not everyone can be that level of friendship, that deep friendship.
Just pray for good, godly friends, and God will bring those friendships, those good sisterhood friendships around you.
It's okay to recharge alone, but we grow in community. And so if I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna do it corporately.
Welcome to the Collective Talk Podcast, Season 3, where we share reflections on prayer, family, and ministry. On today's episode, we'll be talking all about sisterhood, loneliness, and leading with the heart. And today, you guys, I have a special guest with me. She's been on the show the very first season, so you might recognize her, but she is my beautiful sister, Tracy Wilde, and she is a pastor and a mom. She's an amazing, incredible mom and an amazing sister, my favorite sister, my only sister. But can you help me welcome Pastor Tracy Wilde-Pace to the show?
Oh,
I'm so glad you're here.
Congratulations on season 3.
Thank you. Can you believe that it's season 3? Because you were on season 1, right?
I think I was like the second episode.
Yeah.
Or
that's right.
Pretty
second
early.
or third. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, this is amazing. I'm so proud of you, Rachelle. Like, I've been following this journey. You've had incredible guests. And so I feel honored to be back.
I'm so glad you're back. Well, so we're going to have fun because we're going to be talking all about sisterhood and some fun stories. We have some really fun stories, actually. Maybe you do more so. Yeah.
I'll keep it light.
Okay, you'll keep it light. Well, can you share, for those that don't know you, a little bit about your background? I think for some of the people that watched season 1, maybe they know a little bit about you, but can you share with those that don't know, maybe your background and Yeah,
I'm Rachelle's favorite sister. So that's the most important thing about me. But yeah, we were raised in ministry. We're 6th and 7th generation pastors. So we've grown up in ministry. I'm from Boise, Idaho. I lived in LA for several years and I've had that great experience. So I love being back here in this environment. But yes, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I have the most adorable, almost 4-year-old. I can't even believe that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But I'm a teaching pastor at our church and I've just started taking over the discipleship track of our church to really help. There's so many people getting saved, which is awesome. But really working through getting people from meeting Jesus and really walking through that. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about, just like you, like we love ministry. We love building the church. But I think one of my favorite things is that you're my sister, but you're also my best friend.
Yes.
And I think, and it's fun, we're going to talk about this, but it's so important in ministry to have deep friendships like that. But we're just blessed. And I know that because you're my built-in best friend. And I know not everyone has that, but we definitely do.
Yeah. So we're going to dive right into the topic of sisterhood. And since we're sisters, and we thought that would be a good topic, but what does the true meaning of sisterhood in life and ministry mean to you?
Well, first of all, I think it's so important. I think having those heart-to-heart relationships and connections with other women, whether you're in ministry or not, I think are so invaluable. But it gets harder as you get older. At least for me, I've noticed you only have so much time, especially if you're a wife, you're a mom, you have a job, like finding a new friend or putting the time into having a new friendship can be hard. And I think it gets harder to be vulnerable as you get older. It gets harder to, open your heart to someone else. And I think all of us and girls, we got girl drama, right?
Oh, yes.
So we've been hurt by a friend. And so I think we start to build self-protective layers. And I've noticed as women get older, you have less and less friends. Because you still have a lot of friends. But when we were growing up, you were you were taller than everyone by like a foot. You've been as tall as you are since I think 4th grade or something like that. And all your friends were these cute little shorty girls. And it was like Rachelle and her little chicks would just follow her everywhere. But you've always had like deep friendships, even when we were growing up. And I think that's normal. A lot of girls grow up and they have their little friendship. And as you get older, it's harder because you've been betrayed or you felt like someone took advantage of you, or there's girl drama. Come on, all girls go through the seasons where, you break up with your friend. But I don't think we realize how important sisterhood is, and friendship, and opening up our heart to someone and having someone walk through, difficult journeys and victories and celebrations and all of that. But I think it's crucial. And particularly for those of us in ministry, it's even harder, because we don't know who we can trust, or we don't know who we can, what we can share, how we can open our heart. But I just believe it's something we need to grow, both as women, but also I think as Christ followers, like how to be the best version of what God has called us to be.
That's really good. So now what would you say to women in ministry supporting one another? Because I know there's a lot of like competition, or maybe they've been hurt, like you were just talking about. And so they don't know how to stay open, and they put up walls. It's good to put up boundaries, but walls, no. And so what would you say to people? What do you think is missing in women in ministry today, and how women support one another within the church?
There's definitely that competition, like you said. Unfortunately, I think is that like a human condition for women or something? It's like
it must be
women like if a woman is doing great, it's like other women's job apparently to like tear them down. And to me, that's just not the heart of Jesus. I think women should be championing other women, especially like when they're doing something so spectacular. It's like we should be the first ones to celebrate it. But I think in regards to your question, for those of us in ministry, I think it is a tension of being transparent and vulnerable, but you can't be that with everybody in your church, because you're holding a level of authority and responsibility that it's not the weight for them to carry. It's not their burden. It's not the weight. And we know this as pastors' kids and then becoming pastors, is there are some things that only pastors can really understand and hold, right? There's like a space that God gives us to hold, both spiritually. There's a spiritual warfare. There's a lot of layers there. But there's other parts of your life that you can really be vulnerable and share with others. But I think one of the things that's helped me in ministry is having other ministry friends. So other women who are similar seasons, doing similar things when it comes to ministry, having them as friends, so that when I am going through a challenge and I don't have someone in the church, and Mark always said this, Pastor Mark, your husband, would always say, you have to have someone like above you and then below you, but you don't talk to people below you about challenges and stuff. You have to go to someone above. And so I think you have to have that in ministry. And so you have someone like, that's why you're not just my sister, you're my friend. And I have other ministry friends, like pastors, who if I'm carrying a burden and I can't put that burden on people I'm pastoring, but I can call you, or I can call another one of my friends and be like, what do I do? Like, can you pray with me? I think that's really important to have.
That's so good. I love that. So I truly believe that God uses people to shape you. And I feel like sisterhood is handpicked straight from God. Like he picks he picked you to be my sister. And I feel like that's what God does with even sisterhood within ministry, is God will bring those friends. If you pray for it, it's just like what I tell my girls, Kenzie and Chloe, just pray for good, godly friends. And God will bring those friendships, those good sisterhood friendships around you. And so I think that sisterhood, God handpicks, just like he handpicked you to be my sister, God handpicks good godly friendships. And friendships, it has to have like that connection. Right? You have to have that.
It's got to be organic.
You can't just like force a friendship, but it has to have that connection. And I think that a lot of times, and we're going to get into the topic of loneliness, but I think that is a big issue, even within the church, is loneliness. And we'll get into that. But what would you say, Trace, would be a tip for people to build friendships? Or, like I said, I tell my girls to pray for friendships. Or what would you suggest, maybe if they don't know how to make friendships very easily, what would you tell those people?
I think you've got to be the friend you want. So ask someone to go hang out or invite them over to something. Like, just start being friendly.
Yeah.
If you want friendships, and if there's someone you really are like, I really feel like we have a spirit connection. Like we're so like-minded. I feel like we like similar things. Like maybe we both like fashion, or, I mean, a lot of my friends outside of ministry are friends because we have a commonality of we all love fashion. So there's going to be things that bond you and connect you, For some people, it could be anything, like working out. Oh gosh, I used to do that. Remember those days?
We both did.
We were just talking about that. Like, we should probably work out again.
Yes.
But like, people are going to find a commonality. And I think that's important. But I think you got to be friendly and you've got to be vulnerable. And that is not fun. We all know, because when you're vulnerable, there's the chance you're going to be rejected. And there's the chance that person isn't going to meet your expectation if you're like, I really want to be friends with them. But you're never going to make friends if you don't try. If you don't just put yourself out there, not like dating, it's a little bit, but like you almost feel like you're like dating, like trying to figure out like, can we be friends? Like,
yeah.
But I think you got to be friendly. And I think you just gotta go for it. Like, ask someone, hey, do you want to go get coffee or whatever? And don't feel rejected if it just doesn't mesh. We're not going to be best friends with everyone. And that's okay. But God, like you said, when you pray, God's going to bring those right connections. And also, maybe it's my age, I believe in more, I'd rather have quality friendships than quantity. I'd rather have a couple really strong quality relationships with other sisters that just feed me, that I don't leave drained, but they really fill me, than having 20 girls in my life that when I leave, I don't feel built up. I don't feel encouraged. I feel drained. I feel like that was not a good conversation. Those kind of things. So look for ones that make you better.
Yeah, it's so good. Look for those that make you better. And I think that that's key. And that's something that I try to do. So, and this is another thing. I love that verse, 1 Thessalonians 5:11, I think it is. But it talks about encourage one another, build one another up. You just kind of said that. And it's funny, as maybe you don't have a lot of friendships because of maybe it's insecurity or maybe it's competition. A lot of girls tend to size other people up or compete. We talked a little bit about that. But you can't compete with somebody that you're called to cover.
Oh, that's good.
And so I think that as a good friendship, or as a godly, or as a Christian, as believers, we're called to build one another up. We're called to encourage one another and not tear each other down. And so many women tear one another down. They don't build each other up. They don't live by that verse. And 1 Thessalonians,
and do you think some of it's like the root causes jealousy sometimes? Yeah.
And so that's most of the time. And so just be the person that you want a friendship. If you want a friend to build you up, encourage you, be that person.
Exactly.
And so I think that it goes back to 1 Thessalonians 5:11. If you want good, godly friendships that build you up, be a person that is that verse that builds up, encourages one another.
Yeah.
So you can't you can't compete with somebody that you're called to cover. So I thought that was really good. But
that's really good.
Have you ever, Trace, felt alone in ministry? And how did sisterhood play a role in that, or some of your friendships? Or
is that a trick joke? Of course. I think everyone feels alone in ministry.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing pastors and leaders struggle with is loneliness. If we're honest, because of like what I was talking about earlier, not everyone can be that level of friendship, that deep friendship, right? So you can only have certain ones that you can really open your heart to, and that can handle and understand the challenges you face, the unique challenges as a pastor and a leader. So yeah, I've had many seasons. I've had some really dark seasons of the soul, we've all gone through, and everyone who's listening to this can all relate to some season of their life with some deep loneliness. I think for me, the season that was the hardest when it came to loneliness was obviously when I was single. for a lifetime. You know, I was 39 when I got married, which is pretty much like, you know, in the church world, it's like they're really worried about me, you know? And so I went through lots of years of all of my friends getting married. And that's one season that I'm out of. So I'm the single one, not being invited to all of the married couples, even though these are my friends since we were growing up. Like, I'm like, we're all friends. I wouldn't be invited to the Christmas parties or, you know, like the different things. And that was one thing. But then all my friends had kids and I was still 2 seasons behind. I'm like, I'm still the single one, you know, not with kids. You're all married, have kids. And I was in ministry, full-time ministry. So I'm like doing the same jobs. But I was uninvited, you know, or wasn't welcome to the things that they were a part of. And I remember that was such a lonely season because they were my friends. But because I wasn't married or I wasn't a mom, I remember they would just make subtle comments. And I don't think they meant to, but it was like, oh, well, it's just for the marrieds, or it's just, and I was like, but I'm still a human being. Like, we're still friends. I will say this, you and Mark never did that to me. No. Like, you and Mark were always, and because we're sisters, we do have such a strong bond. But when you married Mark, he kind of knew, like, she comes with the
with the package,
I guess, or she's just a part of the plan. And I remember we'd go on vacations. Yeah. You guys knew that there'd be Christmas parties and different things, and I wouldn't be invited. And sometimes you guys wouldn't go, and you would go hang out with me. Or I really appreciated that because I feel like in that season, our relationship even deepened because you guys recognized that loneliness. Mm-hmm. And so I really modeled what you and Mark did for me. When I got married, I made sure to do that same thing to the single girls. Mm-hmm. Like, I never wanted them to feel excluded. Same thing as becoming a mom. Like, of course I'm going to have relationship with couples now and relationships with other moms, but that doesn't mean the single girls in my life are not my friends. Mm-hmm. I actually feel like even more so that I've been called to be a friend in their season. So I would say it was during that time. And I just want to encourage, if you are, maybe you're married or you're a mom and you have a single friend, don't treat her like she's an outcast in a different season. This is a great opportunity for you to pull her in because this is a lonely season for her. And she is probably really needing you to be one who, you know, thinks about her on a holiday. Like, that's one of the things I do is I'll text some of the single girls that I know are, you know, like waiting for that new season and be like, hey, what are you doing? Do you have plans? Like that kind of stuff. And I think that is important. That's a way for women to be true sisters to one another.
I love that. And it was just so cool too when we would do that and Mark's connection. Memories. And now me and Mark are like all so close and it's just so special. And I see you doing that with other single girls. And so I love that. Yeah. So I heard this quote and I thought it was so good that loneliness isn't the absence of people, but it's the absence of connection. And so I think that connection is the key to, you know, in a sense is you have to have real connections. And so why do you think it's important for women in leadership to have, we've already been talking about this, the number one thing, why they need to have safe friendships in leadership?
Because with real connection and real friendships, you're really honest. And when you're not able to be honest or vulnerable, you hide things. Those are the people that live in secret. And we all know these girls. We have these women in our lives. And maybe we've been that woman before. But you know the women who are secretive, or you can always tell they're holding back. Or the other thing I've noticed sometimes with women is they want all your information and they want to get in, but they won't share. Right. That is such a damaging trend for long-lasting relationships, because I guarantee you if those women look at their past history of friendship, they have a lot of broken relationships. Because over time, you can't have a real connection with someone who's not honest and not vulnerable. And I'm sure there's a root there they've been hurt before. They have trust issues. Maybe it's control issues. I mean, there's a lot of things we can get into. You know, we can do like deep inner healing here if we need to, but there's a reason they're not able to have a deep connection. And that's, I think then that precipitates and that starts all deep loneliness because they're not able to make those connections. And so I think the starting point for all of us, if we find ourselves in that situation, first go to Jesus, lay your burdens down, be vulnerable with him in his presence, and find one trusted woman. And maybe she's going to be older. And that, I think, I have generational friends. I have women older than me, my age, younger than me. And they're friendships for different reasons. But maybe that girl needs to find someone that's really trusted and she needs to open her heart because you're going to have to be vulnerable if you want deep, long-lasting, and back to relationships that make you better.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so profound. I love that. So loneliness, can be, I think, a divine invitation to discover who you are. And if you're honest, I love what you were saying about honesty, vulnerability. And a lot of times I think that people don't have deep connections like you were talking about is because they're not honest, they're not open with people, and they're secretive or they're holding back.
Yeah.
And maybe it is the pain that they have in their hearts that they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to be open. They don't want to be honest with other, ladies or people. And so I think loneliness can be a divine invitation to who you are.
Yeah.
And so how do you protect, Tracy, how do you protect your heart in friendship while still showing up vulnerable?
Yeah, I think you just got to do it scared. You have to, I think like in our relationship, I think we do have a really strong relationship, but part of that is we allow each other to correct us, each other, and I don't enjoy it.
Me neither.
And it's usually, you just have to give me a look and I'm like, oops. But I think if it wasn't, I know that you're going to tell me the truth. And I know that you're going to encourage me, but I know it's always out of love. And I know it's because what you see in me is something great. So when you have friendships that believe in you, women who believe in you and believe the best and they want the best out of you, then they're also going to be women who at sometimes have to correct you and say, Tracy, don't say that. I remember years ago when I was in LA and I was pastoring, and I remember I just had made a joke. Like I just made a joke with one of the people in our church, and it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't a bad joke. It wasn't anything, I don't even remember what it was. It was just kind of a silly little joke. And my dear friend at the time said, Tracy, don't say that. And she is a genuine, she just loved Jesus more than anyone in the world. And I knew she loved me, and I know she always wanted the best for me. And she's like, don't make that joke. And I was like, oh, why? And she goes, because people won't take you seriously and you have a call in your life and that you don't need to joke like that. And I was like, you're so right. And I could have gone, don't talk to me like that, and put up walls or been really frustrated and embarrassed, which I was a little embarrassed. And that's embarrassment is okay, you guys. You're going to live. But I listened and I responded, and it did make me a better leader. To now that's in my mind. I don't want to say things like that, or I don't want to do that. And it was because a friend who cared about me and who loved me, I had created space to be corrected. And you have to have friendships like that. Let me say this, you're not friends with someone if that friend can't lovingly correct you.
That's so good.
That's not friendship. That's like a clique. That's a hangout club. You might as well join the Babysitters Club. Remember those books? We weren't allowed to read them. But that's not friendship. That's not deep friendship, because iron sharpens iron. And I think biblical friendship, looks like pulling each other up out of pits, comforting each other when we mourn, celebrating every win and victory, but also correcting us along the way.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so powerful. So what What have we gone through as sisters that has strengthened our bond? I mean, there's a
should
lot.
have started the podcast with this.
I know. This is like, we've gone through a lot together, but one thing can you share that we've gone through that has strengthened our bond or our friendship?
I just think anytime either one of us has gone through something difficult, like, and you know what's funny is it's often when somebody's hurt us.
Right.
I think that always has helped us because we help each other pray through that, work through that. But when we've been hurt, especially in ministry, because we grew up as pastors' kids, and man, people said weird stuff to both of us. I think you got it worse than me. Like you were older, so I think you were targeted more than me. But all through our journey in ministry, I think a lot of it is like what people have said or people that have wounded us. I mean, we've been really hurt by pastors. And I think that but we always helped each other keep our eyes on Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I think if there was one thing that we could say, why we love ministry and why we have given our lives to this is because our foundation is we love Jesus and we've encountered his love. And so I think we've always helped point each other back to that is in any difficult situation. Yeah. And I've gone through trials, you've gone through trials, but I think it's in the trials, the sadness and the betrayal. I've been betrayed, you've been betrayed. And in those seasons, instead of getting bitter, and I want to call my sister and like beef, not beef with you, but talk about the beef. And I want you on my side. But I think you usually will let me get whatever I need out. And then you always encourage me with a word and in prayer. And that always deepens our relationship because then guess what happened? Now I feel more connected and I feel like I can be more vulnerable with you. If I called you and I was like, Rachelle, I'm going through this, and I get through it. And then you're like, and all you did was go, oh, okay, well, sorry. Or you just like yell at me. Because you did when we were little. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Correction's good, but it's the sandwich method like Dad always taught us. It's like you say something really positive and then you put in the little correction or like the little like, I encourage in this. And then you end it with something really encouraging and positive. And I think that that's what we've done for each other when we're going through trials. We're there to listen because you need friends who will listen. But you need friends to tell you the truth. And then you need friends to pray for you and encourage you.
Yes. And I think that praying together is huge. I think God answers your prayers through people.
Yeah.
And so I think that, we've always, we share common, I don't like to always use this word, but trauma or common, pain.
Are you
or
triggered
hurts.
by your trauma?
Yeah, no. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So pain or hurt or all the things that you were just saying, wounds.
Yeah.
And so we would talk about that. That was a shared wound that we had. And so it strengthened our bond together.
Yeah.
So just as friendships and sisterhood in ministry and people that are your friends, if you open up, if you're honest, if you are truthful, then you have that God connection. And if you truly are not secretive and you put your walls down, then that person, I truly believe, can be an answer to your prayer.
Yeah.
And so I think so many times people put up those walls. They don't want to, they have those insecurities. They don't want to let people in because they have been hurt. And so, but honestly, if a lot of people, we've all gone through pain. We've all gone through hurts and trauma. And if you find that right person that God's going to bring alongside of you, and at the end, we're going to pray that God will bring those people, those friendships, and maybe you feel lonely and maybe you feel isolated. But, the Bible talks about that isolation. When you're isolated in the Bible, it says you're seeking your own. And so when you begin to, okay, God, I want godly friendships. I want a good friendship. When you ask God that, He's going to send those perfect people.
Absolutely.
Not perfect, we're not perfect, but the perfect person for you.
Yeah.
And so how do you reconcile, Tracy, differences in personality, or how do you reconcile differences in personality or opinion and still stay close?
I love this because I actually was thinking about this. Sometimes friends are going to come in your life and you're going to think they're an enemy.
Yeah.
because they're going to come and they're going to bring a different perspective, or their personality is different. That doesn't always mean it's not God. That person could be the person that you were praying for, because God knows what we need more than what we do. In fact, we ask for specific things and God's like, oh yeah, I'm going to give you, I'm going to answer your prayer, but I'm going to answer it a way you don't expect.
That's good.
And so sometimes I think he puts friends in our lives and other women in particular who are going to think a little bit different, and they're going to have a different personality. And I think our knee-jerk reaction is to be like, we don't have enough in common, or I don't like that about, you have a strong opinion about this and I think differently. But I actually think God could be placing you in each other's lives to help each other grow. And maybe there's something you need to learn, and maybe there's something they need to learn. I think you can have deep friendships with people and think differently. Shocker. Like, we're human.
Yeah.
We have different life experiences and, journeys. And I think it's healthy. And I think God uses the pain and the wounds of our past, because this is God's redemptive plan. He wants to take what you've gone through. He wants to heal you, make you completely whole. And then you become, like Henry Nouwen says this, a wounded healer. And you help others with what God has healed you from. And then it's like an opportunity. And this is something that I have said in my life. God brings purpose to all my pain. He wastes nothing. And so God could be bringing someone into your life who has gone through something that you need their friendship. You need their expertise. Because they're a wounded healer. And so don't brush off if someone thinks a little bit different. Don't just cut people off. I think that's weird.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everyone's going to have the same level of friendship, but there might be something in them that you need, and you might have something they need. But I think there's different levels of intimate friendship, right? Because of differences in personality. But I think we can have those kind of levels of friendship with different people.
I love that. That was beautiful. Become a wounded healer. Who was that by?
Henry Nouwen.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. And
it's
that's
like the tiniest book. Everyone can read it.
Oh, really?
It'll take you a day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to read it. I love that. Become a wounded healer. I think that too, isolation, going back to isolation, it shrinks us, but intimacy with God, it restores us.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people feel like, if I'm isolated, I mean, you and I are both very similar. When you're more extroverted.
No.
I have to get home.
I pretend.
Okay, you pretend. I have to get home. I love being around people for so long, and then I have to have my alone time, right? So as soon as I get home, I'm like
in my sweats,
in my
bed.
Yeah, in my bed. We're the same that way, right? So but honestly, I can't imagine doing that all the time, because God hasn't made us like that. He made community for us.
Yes.
He's made sisterhood for us, and isolation shrinks us. And so we think, oh man, we get finally when I get in my bed, I feel, oh, I get my alone time. I get to be alone, and I feel like, but I have to. God has made us,
for community,
to be around people. As iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So we have to be around others. And so, what would you say to that?
Well, I'd say it's okay to recharge alone, but you can't grow alone.
It's good.
So I recharge alone because I think I'm like the omnivore or whatever it is. So like I turn it on when I need to turn it on. I think all pastors can relate to that.
Yeah.
Or anybody that's in any sort of public kind of vocation and job where you're with people a lot. Unless you're Mark Francey.
Yeah, who charges around people.
Oh, yeah. I think it's okay to recharge alone, but we grow in community. And so if I'm going to grow, I'm going to do it corporately. Eugene Peterson talks about that. Even when it comes to learning how to pray, he says, you don't learn how to pray by yourself. Like you don't go in isolation and you don't go in a quiet room how to pray. If someone comes to him, he said this in one of his books, he goes, if someone came to me and asked me, how do you pray? He goes, show up at the 9 a.m. prayer meeting. Come to the 7 a.m. Remember, we used to have 7 a.m.
Yes.
prayer. Mom and dad would take us
Yes.
to. We'd probably fall asleep in the chairs.
Under the
but
pews or,
I think that's how we learned to pray.
Yeah.
Even as super young kids. So you can recharge alone or however you need to recharge. And for some, it is like they need to just be by themselves, have quiet time, relax, whatever. But you don't grow that way. You can't grow alone. Yeah. God created us for community. He created us to grow together. And so we need each other. It's in community that we find our strength. It's in community that we find our giftings. It's in community we find purpose. It's in community that we live out the kingdom of God. And so you can find seasons where, you need to just be by yourself. But if you want to grow, you're going to have to put real clothes on and get out of your bed.
Yes.
And go in the real world. Because that's where I believe God's going to be able to impart to you what he needs to.
So powerful. I love that. I think that friendships give leaders and us the freedom to become fully human. Yeah. I think that, we have to have those deep connections. We have to have, it's how God, again, what you were saying, we have to, community shapes us, and we're fully human when we're around people. God didn't just, he made Adam, but then he made a helpmate, right? Eve. And so God created us for community. So,
and how can we help people if we're not with people and we don't know their struggles and we don't know what they're walking through? And
it's good.
So you have to be with people.
Mm-hmm. So on a different topic, this is a fun one. So what is one hilarious memory or funny memory that we had sharing as sisters?
Am I supposed to share like
you can, just don't share embarrassing ones.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
All of them are embarrassing. I feel like we were
one?
kids. Well, let me think. I just remember the time, and we have a different view on this story.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the youngest of 3. You and Chris lived in the basement, and I lived upstairs, and I wasn't really allowed to come in the basement when you guys had friends over unless I was invited.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, you
mean
did.
Invited by us?
You.
Oh.
You or Chris had to invite me to
no,
the
you
basement.
would just come downstairs with Chris's friends.
No.
And then they would, what? No.
Yeah, they would call me and pretend like they wanted to play, and they would throw me under the poof pillow.
The beanbag, remember?
Yes,
the big
and I
beanbag?
was
We had those
claustrophobic.
back in the 80s, those big beanbags.
And I would get like superhuman strength. And they would
'Cause you
do
were
it because they would see,
claustrophobic?
well, because your adrenaline goes,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
super claustrophobic. I thought I was going to die. And so I would beat off these high school boys. And so they thought it was funny. But no, you
Oh, yeah.
would have your friends over and you'd be like, oh, hey, Tracy, do you want to come play with us? And I'd come running from the other side of the house upstairs all the way down. I think I ran so fast. And you'd be like, okay, if you want to hang out with us, you got to go get us snacks. And what you meant, this is where we disagree, but I know, and we could call Mom right here. Let's FaceTime her on the podcast
Oh, yeah.
and get
Let's
the
do
truth.
it. Okay.
You would make me use my babysitting money, get on my bike, and ride to Albertsons and buy snacks with my money.
No, I never told you to do that.
Yes, you did.
No, I was not that mean of a
Call
sister.
Mom.
No, I told you if you want to hang out with my friends, just go get us some of your candy. I never thought
Where
your
did I have
candy was
candy?
at the Merc at the gas station. I didn't tell you to get on your bike.
Did I have a pantry in my room? I just had candy stashed?
Yeah, you always had candy stashed.
I don't like candy. You like candy.
I don't know. I just knew you had
No.
candy somehow.
You made me use my babysitting
Wait, where's
money.
my phone?
Yeah, call Mom.
Yeah.
Mom's probably going to have a totally different perspective.
Oh my gosh,
and
we'll
we're
have to,
both
okay,
wrong.
on the caption below, we'll have to tell you who is telling the truth, me or Tracy. Who do you
It's
believe?
definitely, I'm the baby.
No.
Everyone knows
No,
we're
no.
tormented.
She's a little exaggerator.
That's
but,
true.
Okay. Yeah.
But that, I have this story right.
Okay. So if you could describe our sisterhood in 3 words, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of pressure. I would say it's authentic. It's loving, but it's real. That's what I would say. I don't know. That's like those kind of things make me nervous when people throw that at me. I don't know.
Say it again so I can like post it and put it up on my mirror.
I honestly just forgot what I said.
Me too.
Authentic. Wait,
Authentic.
No.
Yeah, the first one.
Loving
And real. Yeah.
But is authentic and real the same thing?
Basically.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you and me are real, girl.
Okay. Okay, so what is something about me or us that most people don't know?
They don't know.
That
We're
don't
both
know
athletic.
that should.
We're
What?
very athletic.
Oh yeah, we're
We're both
athletic.
very athletic. Like we were super
played
athletic growing
basketball.
up, played basketball, but we can play. I mean, give us a sport. We're just naturally very athletic. That sounds very boastful. But
Yeah, I'm like,
it's
wait, are we
true.
really?
I mean, maybe
if
not
we're
so much
both-
anymore.
Yeah.
But like I think people, especially you, because you're just like perfect and beautiful, and they probably don't realize that you're like, and you're scary when you play basketball.
Yeah, I'm a little bit.
You're like
competitive.
scrappy. You're like
Yeah.
that scrappy player. Oh, we're very competitive.
Yes,
If people
very-
don't play, oh my
games,
gosh,
board
don't
games.
play Dutch Blitz with this girl.
No, I literally almost got excommunicated from our home, extracted from our home. You weren't with us, but we had Thanksgiving. And
Oh yeah, you guys were. I heard this story.
we
Kenzie
went
told
with
me.
the Dunsons and different people, and we were.
And Mark wouldn't let you play.
Well, no, they finally let me at the beginning, and I said, I'll be good. I'll won't be competitive, and I won't freak out. So then I'm playing, and Kenzie and Mark, and then I'm like getting really, I can't help it. I get really
you've
into
never
it.
been able to.
And then I won't say, but there was 2 people cheating, and I could tell. And so I was like, yeah, it was a whole thing.
Well, you
And
get
so
very worked up.
I do. It's bad.
You probably did this.
Okay, so Tracy, my sister says this was a whole thing. Maybe this is something that they should know or
about
maybe
me.
shouldn't know.
Now they're gonna notice.
Now they're going to notice. Okay, so
my
she
gosh.
said the other day, she just flew into town and she's like, Rachelle, do you know that you do this with your shoulder? Like the one shoulder, like if I'm excited about something
Or really passionate. You're like
I'll
really.
lift up my right shoulder or one of my shoulders and I'll be like, oh, hey.
It's a little.
It's a
pop,
little
a shoulder pop.
She's like, do you know you do that? And I'm like, I didn't know I did that all of these years.
That's
and then
so funny.
I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to go ask Mark, my husband. I'm going to go ask him, is this really true that I do this shoulder pop? And and then he's like, yeah, of course. And I go, I literally do that? And he's like, yes. And then I go ask Kenzie, my daughter, and she said the same thing. So all these years. And then I watched a podcast back and I'm like, I do
and
that.
everyone sitting in the studio today, we asked them and they all laughed and go,
Yes.
yeah, you do that, Pastor Rachelle.
So I'm trying not to do it today,
No,
guys.
do it. It's very endearing.
No, it's something like this where I'll just, hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you? So I'm not going to do that anymore, okay? So
No, just keep doing
anyway.
it.
So I think we can finish on playing, or it may be singing, since people probably don't know, or maybe some do know, that we sang. We were in a band that was called Unheard Melodies.
That's why you never heard of us.
You never heard of us because it was unheard.
Unheard.
And so maybe we can sing one of our little harmony, but we never sang this for
We
our
didn't
band.
practice though, so I kind of feel like I hope we can do it.
Me too. So
Not one of our songs from the album that we had.
No.
The one album we made.
Yeah. We're only going to do that one little ditty,
It
right?
goes, yeah, we go.
Do, 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 do. Oh, wait, we got to harmonize.
I know.
Okay, so you got to go a little higher.
I don't think I can sing high anymore.
Oh,
I
no?
used to be like soprano, but my voice.
Okay.
Okay. Do 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 do.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Do 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 do.
We used
Does
to
anyone
have
remember
like
what that's from?
Coca-Cola Classic is always the one. That one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we did another. We always used to do the count on me through. That'd be a perfect song for what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, let's sing that one.
But did I start too high?
Maybe. I don't know.
Count on me through thick and thin, a friendship that will never end. When you are weak, I will be strong, helping you to carry on. Call on me, I will be there.
Oh, yeah, I was like,
can't do that one. Don't be afraid. Please believe me when I say, count on.
oh, yeah.
rough there.
Yeah,
but
it was rough, but we had a
That was a
friendship
great song.
Yes, it's a perfect way to end.
Oh my gosh, that's like the perfect song for this topic.
Yes, and then Trace, such a fun show. Can you
thanks
pray
for having me.
for all of the listeners
Yeah.
out there, just maybe if they're feeling lonely,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't feel like they could connect
Yeah.
with people or have those friendships, and maybe they're praying for those godly friendships, and if you could pray for those people
For
listening.
sure. Yeah, it's awesome. Jesus, we just thank you for, it's your idea for friendship. It's how you made us. You created us for community and for others. And so, Lord, I pray for any listener who might be feeling lonely. They might be feeling isolated, and maybe they're carrying wounds of a past friendship, maybe a betrayal, maybe a deep disappointment. And Lord, I just pray that you would go to that very wound and you'd heal it. Lord, heal the wounds, Lord, that have maybe kept them from being able to enter into new, greater, deeper relationships. So Lord, first heal so that these women could begin the journey of finding just the right friendships in the right season. And so Lord, I pray that these women would, even as Pastor Rachelle and I were talking about, that they would pray for you to bring the women into their life, maybe the sisters they've never had, or maybe it's mentors, women who are a little bit older that would come alongside of them and just would walk through the season that they're in. Lord, I pray that you would come and you would encounter them. Father, I thank you that you love us with an everlasting love. And if anyone's feeling lonely and isolated and alone right now, God, I thank you that they're not. The Bible says that you stick closer to us than a brother. You're right there with us. You never leave us and you never forsake us. And Lord, I pray that first and foremost, they would know you are their true deep friend. And that, God, if their heart's desire is for greater friendships and for new friendships, God, I pray that you would bring them divinely into their life, that would walk alongside of them. And Lord, that they would grow together into the purposes that you have for them. So bless every listener, God. I thank you that you are the perfect controller of all things. You're involved. They're not alone. You're with them and you're for them, and you're guiding them exactly to the place they need to be. So we thank you, Jesus, that you're doing the work and you're bringing the right people into their lives. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So powerful. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Rachelle. You look so cute.
You too. I wanted your outfit. Your whole
I'm
outfit
sponsored
today.
by Fancy Pants. All my clothes.
You have to tell, Fancy Pants. If you go to Idaho, where is it at?
It's downtown Boise,
Downtown
9th and Idaho
Boise.
Street. But you can order online.
Well, I tell them
It's my best friends. They own the
So I
cutest
got
store.
these jeans from
Yeah.
Fancy Pants.
Yeah, you're half the time sponsored by them.
I know.
I'm all the time sponsored.
You're
by
all
them.
the time. Well, the great thing is that I always tell all the ladies that ask me, where do you get that outfit or that? And I'm like, my sister and Fancy Pants in Idaho. So you have to go visit. And then Tracy will sometimes work there as well.
I work like once a week. So it's like so fun because I'm just surrounded by clothes.
So Tracy will send me, I'm like, hey, I like that on you. You got to send that to me.
I know. So she's going to try this on because we're going to see if this is the size she needs. And
love
we'll
it.
Send it to her.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, love you.
Love you.
Bestie.
Oh, you did the shoulder thing, the shoulder pop.
Oh my gosh, I did.
Yes. You're just hanging out with me and you're becoming like me.
But I actually think now that you say it, I do it too.
I told you, you do it. Yeah. Well, sisters.
Besties.
See, I just did it again. Love you.
Love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Collective Talk, where we dove into the topics of sisterhood, loneliness, and leading with the heart. Stay tuned for future episodes as we dive into the topics of prayer, family, and ministry.